overarching theme of our lab is to take advantage of the molecular recognition and self-assembly properties of biomolecules in order to create functional architectures that we can use for a wide variety of applications that, at least right now, include the environment, medicine and health, and tools for researchers in the biosciences. So one of the areas where we work is using nucleic acid aptamers, which are essentially the nucleic acid version of antibodies in that they can bind to small molecules or proteins with high specificity and affinity. And what our lab has really been interested in is thinking about what is it that nucleic acid aptamers can do that antibodies just aren't capable of. And so we have 3 of our projects are in this area, and I'll just talk really quickly about each of those. So with one of our projects, we're really interested in using aptamers to measure the enantiopurity of small molecule mixtures. And the real linchpin to how we do that is that we use nucleic acid aptamers that are synthesized from each of the 2 enantiomers of DNA, because that allows us to sense both enantiomers of a small molecule. And of course, this is quite easy with nucleic acids because they're chemically synthesized, but trying to make the all D amino acid version of an antibody would be a really monumental challenge. And so that's one area where nucleic acids give us a huge advantage. Another area is that we're very interested in using aptamers for a variety of applications that also have to take place in the presence of surfactants or reducing agents. And we found, very excitingly, that aptamers function quite well under these conditions. We can use a lot of SDS or things like 50 millimolar DTT and still have a recognition element that can bind to its target under these conditions, whereas of course antibodies are just completely obliterated by these denaturing conditions. And then a third project that we have is using artificial nucleic acids called threose nucleic acids, and these are very similar to DNA except that they're missing one methylene group from the backbone at every repeat. And as a result of this, they're really almost completely impervious to nucleases. And so we've now evolved an aptamer out of this threose nucleic acid that can bind to a small molecule toxin, and actually does so with an even higher affinity than the DNA version of the aptamer. But now we have these recognition elements that can work in these very harsh environments. Given that one of our goals is to really positively impact society, we want to show that we can get our research out there into commercial products. And we're actually right on the cusp of that with one of our projects, where we have a monomer that's being commercialized by Glen Research that we can use to do single cell RNA sequencing with. Ironically, I wasn't allowed to take biology my freshman year of high school because my 8th grade science teacher didn't think that I was very good at science. And so I was taking typing instead, but I wanted something to do after school because I was kind of bored, and a lot of my friends were in Science Olympiad. And so they told me, hey, you should just come hang out with us at Science Olympiad. The teacher's really cool, it's a lot of fun. I said, oh, but I'm really bad at science. You know, I didn't get into biology, I shouldn't do this. And they said, no, just come hang out and it'll be fun. And thankfully, it was a fantastic teacher who became one of my primary mentors throughout high school and really led me to getting into science. And she just kind of slowly talked me into, hey, you know, why don't we have this geology topic in Science Olympiad? You don't need to have any biology, you don't need to have anything past 8th grade science. Just come look at these rocks and learn about them. And so I did that and realized it was a lot of fun, and then just kind of dove headfirst into all of the different science topics and realized that it was something that I really loved. Really dive in and not be afraid of failure, because if you're afraid of failing, then it's really hard to get anywhere in science, because you have to be willing to come into lab every day and run an experiment knowing that there's a really, really good chance that it's going to fail on your first try. And if you can actually run at that failure and go at the hardest part of the problem first and just dive in even when you know it might not work, you might fail a lot, but you'll actually get to success a lot faster than if you kind of hang back and are afraid of failing. Also, that goes hand in hand with the first part of my advice, to do what you're passionate about. Because if you really love what you're doing, then it's a lot easier to persist through those failures because you're doing something you love. And so even when it's not working, you know, there are days you don't love it, but you still know why you're there and why you're in lab. Whereas if you do something just because you think you should, or because, you know, it'll make your parents happy, or you think it's somehow a job that you should have, then it's a lot harder to persist through those rough days.